Welcome to the podcast, Eye for Talent, the show where we have an eye for talent. I'm your host, Dylan, aka DJ Cereal Sauce. I'm a Twitch streamer, YouTube content creator, producer, a couple of other things. I feel like every time I do this, the list gets shorter and shorter as I forget the things that I do. And joining me is my friend Anna, aka Mama Plant, because that's... Hold on, side note, where did Mama Plant come from? I'm sorry.
Basically, I always wake up with the sun, and my friends have started realizing that I wake up at the butt crack of dawn. And I always say that I require sunlight in order to survive. So instead of eating, I photosynthesize, and it's become the fact that I am a plant.
Okay, fair enough. Jesus Christ. So Mama Plant's on here. There's a long list of things I got to get through. She was classically trained as a ballerina for 14 years. Then she got into social dancing, which means a whole bunch of stuff that will probably be explained later. She used to run a sort of dance scene in terms of coordinating and getting the money and getting people to show up and all this other stuff. Then she got into ballroom dancing, and then she took that shit competitively, and also something about competitive West Coast swing dancing, and also now makes dresses for ballroom dancers, and also does a lot of other things that have nothing to do with what I just said. That's going to be a consistent theme amongst a lot of these people, is they seem to just be good at 50 different things. So you might see them on here a lot. How did I do on the intro?
Solid job.
All right, good enough. That's good enough for me. Well, yeah, no, like truthfully, like thank you for coming on here. I appreciate you taking the time out of your super busy schedule to entertain my side of the internet, I guess, because what you do and what I do can frankly be described as being on complete opposite sides of the spectrum, with your whole waking up at the crack of dawn, photosynthesizing sunlight and all this stuff. And like, I'm a bit of a hermit, but I think a lot of it comes from the fact that I have a lot of stuff that I have to upload all the time. So I truthfully appreciate the fact that you were able to humor me for this.
Well, thank you for having me on here, because I've been listening to your podcast and I actually really enjoy it. I think it's super cool what you do. And, you know, maybe one day you can teach me how to do that side of the internet, because ask anyone that we both know and they will tell you I am the last person that should be trusted with anything streaming wise or anything like this.
Fair enough. Yeah. If you ever, like, dead ass, if you ever get into anything like that, yeah, you can come to me, because, I would maybe... Okay, there's probably a couple of people in between you and me that I think would make more sense for you to go to exclusively because you know them better and you have a closer proximity to them. But also, I'm kind of the one who... I might be shooting myself in the foot when I say this, but I think I'm the one that taught them a lot of the stuff they know, potentially. So, either way.
I'll go to the master instead of the students. That seems like you.
Yeah, or at least, like, maybe work your way up the chain a little bit, because there's a chance you can go to one of them and they'll be like, hey, I don't know this. Go to the next person or something. So who knows? That could be how it goes in the future. Geez, I have a lot of questions here because I think this objectively might be the thing that I know the least about currently of everyone that I've interviewed. And that's totally fine. Honestly, I think that's a good thing, actually. And, you know, shouts out to Alec, by the way. I've mentioned you a couple times on here. Alec is like my scout. Alec just goes and finds people, and he's just like, hey, you, come be on this podcast with this dumbass. And it works. So, Alec, if you're listening to this, shouts out. We love you. I know the exact
Alex
story of how this happened in the first place. Yeah, Alec does a good job. I wonder what he's doing right now. I would call him, but I don't have time for that. So, I mean, man, we're just going to kick it off and just get right into it. What the fuck is West Coast swing?
Oh, okay. I could describe it in terms. I want to say it's like a chill Lindy Hop, but that probably means nothing to you.
Yeah, so the follow-up question, what the fuck is Lindy Hop?
Yeah, okay, so let's go with West Coast. It's a dance to modern music, and it's wow, it's really hard to describe dancing without being able to show you. But it's a very smooth dance. It goes back and forth on a slot, and it's more modern than probably the most modern of dances that you'll come across. It's really groovy. It's really fun. It's a partner dance. A lot of cool tricks and dips you can do with it. It overall just looks like people are floating across the floor while simultaneously spinning on one foot and falling into each other's arms.
Okay. So I'm able to visualize it a little bit, and the way that I'm picturing it in my head is it's almost like a combination of just straight up like modern um I don't know dancing terms. I don't know. I describe it as like a mix between modern dance routines that you see on the internet of people just like sliding and shuffling everywhere on the ground and actual classical dancing of sorts. Maybe?
So not too far off. It's definitely together. So you are moving, you're facing each other, you're about an arm's length apart. You have bent arms and you're going back and forth, kind of stretching and compressing against each other. That's the basic move. And yeah, you're gonna take a lot of those cool things you see on the internet. Um, there's some cool footwork involved, and it's all improvisational. So, well, I say all. Most of it is improvisational. There are some that you can do like routines with, but 98% of West Coast swing that you'll see is all made up on the spot.
Oh. Okay. Um Dan, hold on. You know what I could have done this whole time? I could have just like Googled it just to like well,
Yeah, look up Jakob and Emmeline.
let me look this up really quick.
It's Jakub.
Okay, I tried looking it up with a Y for some reason, even though I know that that's not whatever.
It's one of those European names that
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so let me. Oh my god, it's so loud. So yeah, let me like skip partway through this and try and figure out what's kind of going on here. So okay. No, I see what's happening here.
Mhm.
This shit looks like they're trying to be this looks like this would be performed on an ice rink is what I'm coming to
Yeah.
understand from this performance.
It kind of looks like you're on an ice rink minus the ice, but they somehow make it smooth enough to look like that.
Yeah, the thing that's throwing me off is this lady definitely has shoes on. You ain't got no reason to be that smooth on the wood grain floor with shoes on. What the hell?
So actually, it looks like she's wearing sneakers, but all dance shoes are suede soled. So they're very
Oh,
soft and slidey, but they have just enough grip that you don't like slide out from under yourself.
fair enough. Okay. I was about to say there's some kind of magic going on in this that I don't understand and I need to be explained to me this instant. But no, that makes sense. Okay, cool. Um
Actually, all dancers just learned how to levitate. That's something that we don't tell you when you start out.
that's somebody's definitely spilled the beans on that then because there's no way that like because like if I was in that situation and I learned how to do that there's no way I'd keep that a secret. I'd be like, hey yo bitch, watch this.
Whoop.
Just like
I would do the same thing.
it's stupid but in a okay, I keep using the word stupid when referring to a lot of things that go on in this podcast, but I mean it in the most sincere way possible of like this is this is fantastic. I'm happy to see this.
Oh,
um
good.
So that's cool. Okay. Um, Immediately diverting the complete other direction from understanding of a core fundamental part of what you do. Um, I guess I should have structured these better. I blame Peter on this. How? Because he gave me like half of these questions. Did he? It doesn't matter. How many tournaments have you won? With winning basically being classified as anything third place or up.
Oh, okay. So this is gonna sound like a brag. I haven't lost.
Oh,
So
okay.
um my first ballroom comp, I compete in something called American Smooth, and later I moved on to something called Nine Dance. So American Smooth, I got there first competition, got second. West Coast, the first competition that I like did was actually leading, so I won that one, and following did pretty well at and that's like the guy part versus the girl part, if that makes more sense. Like follower is the girl part, guy part is lead.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's hard to classify that because for ballroom there's a ton of different ways that you can win without winning the whole thing. So they have single dances where you get judged on just one dance out of the whole thing. They have scholarships, which there are 3 dances and you win money with it.
Ooh.
And there are championships where you win overall and you don't win money. So I can confidently say I've won 3 scholarships, and then I don't even know how many single dances I've won.
Okay, no, that's fair. One,
Yeah.
while I will admit I was hoping to hear some specifics to kind of conceptualize on, I guess on an easy to conceptualize scale of like how many you've won, because to anybody who would be listening to this who actually knows what you're talking about more than I do, they'd be like, "Whoa, that's crazy," and you just come in, you're like, "No, I've won all of them. I have not
Okay, I
lost."
can give you a specific. Here, let me think. Um, so 3 scholarships because I've done 3 big competitions, and there's probably about 45 entries per competition.
Jesus Christ. Okay.
Yeah, that's 45 entries per day per competition, and they're 2.5 days, I'll say, because there's 45 entries for rhythm, 45 entries for smooth, and I think there's 20 entries for nightclub.
Huh. Okay. Fair
Mhm.
enough. I guess it makes sense to it, like you have one group and then you have another. The way that I was picturing it is you have a bunch of, well, not like a bunch, but you have a handful of different events, and then they take the top people from those and then send them all up the next level. And then
Yeah.
and then it gradually kind of gets smaller and smaller until you only have like 8 or 16 like tournament bracket style type deal.
So kind of. The competitions are never that big because you're judging a partnership. So you could have 30 people competing, but there's only 15 couples,
15 pairs, yeah.
15 pairs. So you'll all go out on the floor. There'll be about 8 people per heat, depending on how many people are on the floor, or like people are in the competition and how big the floor is, and then you'll narrow it down from there. You'll get 2 heats. They'll call you back. You'll do a semifinal. They'll call you back even more, and they'll do a final. But those are for scholarships and championships.
Right. Okay. So it really is only broken down into like 3 official, like 3. I wouldn't even know the right word, but just like 3 sections effectively from the most amount of people all the way up to the top at being only a handful.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It just depends on how many people are there, because you could have 3 people in a category for some age ranges. Like the younger kids don't have that many people there, so they might just go straight to finals.
Yeah. Fair enough. That makes sense.
Mhm.
Okay. So all of this so far is basically just vetting that you're kind of a beast at this. Okay. But everyone has to start somewhere. So how and when did you get started? What drove you to even start pursuing dancing as a hobby in the first place? And then at what point along that timeline did you decide, all right, I'm going to go competitive with this shit?
Okay, so it's kind of a funny story, but I'll start from the beginning. I was put in ballet lessons when I was a kid, when you don't have a choice. My
Classic.
mom was a ballet dancer, so she was like, "You're doing this," and I said, "Okay," because I didn't have autonomous thought at that point.
Yeah.
Because I started when I was 2 years old.
Oh yeah,
So
damn. So literally before you even
yeah,
hold on,
process
what the hell are all the memes about? It's like me just coming into
gaining
consciousness at the age
consciousness.
of 3. Yeah, that was what
Yeah,
happened with you.
yeah. But suddenly I was on the dance floor, and I was like, "This is life." Yeah.
It's sick.
Um, So I went through all those years in high school. When I moved to the Springs, and I didn't have a studio to go to, so I just kind of stopped. I still danced a little bit. I went back and forth to Denver for about 2 years, and it just became too much. And around junior year, I got hit by a car, so I just couldn't. My body physically couldn't handle it anymore.
Yeah,
Um,
as to be expected.
yeah. So for about 2 years, a year and a half, right before COVID started, I was just kind of out of it. I was missing dance a lot, and my friend Jessie invited me to a something called a fusion dance, which is a dance with no rules. It was the only rule is like you have a partner, and then there's music involved, and it was kind of crazy. Um, and I was really, really bad at it, and I was like, I don't want to be bad at this. So I kept going, and I kept being bad at it until finally I was not I still wouldn't call myself great at fusion, but not the worst. But in the process, I met a few people there who were ballroom dancers. And the first thing that happened was this guy named Devin, and I'll Devin is an interesting story. So Devin first invited me to a West Coast class because he was an instructor, and he started, you know, hitting on me a little bit and got like very close, and we ended up dating. And he ended up, while we were dating, he became my ballroom dance coach. So it was something called Pro-Am, where you dance with a pro and you're an amateur. Um, and he taught me the basics, and we were about to compete with each other. We were actually about to do a showcase, and we broke up. And this man went on a rampage and tried to get me banned from my own studio. So
Sounds like typical Devin behavior. I don't know a single motherfucker named Devin, but with a name like that, I am not fucking surprised.
oh yeah, he was an asshole.
And anybody
But
listening, if you have any shit stories with someone named Devin, let us know because I want to have a further reason to hate Devins all of a sudden inexplicably.
yes, please send them to me as well. I need that to make myself feel better. But yeah, so Devin tried to get me banned from my own studio because he worked there. And I said, fuck that. No, you're not. Absolutely not. I'm not letting you ban me from the studio. This is my life now. I have chosen to stay here. So I went to a different instructor at the studio, who's my current ballroom partner. And I was like, we're competing together. And Devin can suck my left toe and watch us dance together. And we ended up competing, and I think we've done better than him. And at this point, I'm competing at the same level as Devin. And so it's kind of competitively out of spite.
Okay, now that okay. There's two things I learned from this I'm like people doing things out of spite only to then realize that they actually have a passion for doing something. I love that. Like because you hear somebody saying I'm doing this out of spite and you're like, well that just seems like you can't let go of something, but in your case you're like now I'm just like really good at it and I'm like having a good time. But the other thing, I'm fascinated by your thing of like I started doing this thing when I was basically kind of like crippled and then was like I don't want to be bad at this. So let me just continue sucking at it until I at least don't suck at it. Because I think probably 98% of the rest of the world, if not 99%, would be like, okay, I suck at this. I made a fool of myself. I embarrassed myself. It is time that I never even consider doing this thing again. Although I guess I shouldn't be surprised given how many things I know you to go and do. And as mentioned, you not all of them are going to be winners, but eventually you continue doing them until you're at least not a loser at it.
Right. That's I definitely think that that's the only way you can accomplish things in life. Because when you first start at something, if you're good at it, that's probably something not worthwhile. Because if you're the best at it and immediately, then why would you pursue it because you're already the best? So if you're really bad at something, it's just kind of more rewarding.
Yeah.
And then, if you try it for a while and you end up not liking it, that's fine. But if you try it once and give up, then that's not fun.
Oh yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. And now that I think about it, like I think about the fact that like if I was looking at this personally, I think if something in my life had compelled me as a small child at the age of 2 and I kind of went through a similar process that you did, if I sucked ass at that kind of thing, I probably would have stopped doing it only because I at the very least don't like sucking ass in front of a bunch of other people. Like I'll happily suck ass on my own accord, and continue to kind of just do things in the shadows while letting people know that like this is something that I'm interested in. But you know, if it's something like that where a lot of your exposure and a lot of your practice could incidentally end up in front of a bunch of other people. If I was in that situation like that and I sucked, I wouldn't. I'd be like, nope, I'm good, and then try and go find something else that at least if I suck at, again, I can suck at in my own personal time where no one has to see me suck.
Oh, I definitely agree with you there. I think it was just one of the reasons why I wanted to do social dancing was because I knew I was at least kind of good at dancing, um, because of ballet. And I think the only reason I really pursued with it was because I wanted it back. I had it and I wanted it back. And, being bad at it in front of a lot of people made me realize that, oh, I mean, no one really cares. People aren't going to hold you accountable for being bad at something you're new at. And they, honestly, they're more focused on what they're doing. So
Yeah.
making a fool of yourself in public is, it's very little impact in the grand scheme of things, but that opened up a whole new world of things, because I think the first thing that I was bad at and kept going was dance, and from there it's opened a whole bunch of other doors of, I'm going to be bad at this until I am good.
Yeah, no, that completely makes sense. And I suppose like you kind of also develop that from the fact that you you were practicing a lot of this and you were attempting to get good at it when you were at an age where that's not a thing that you think about how
Mhm.
other people feel. So that tracks.
Yeah, I mean, the mentality carries on if you just don't care what other people are looking at, or just kind of have to tell yourself, no one's looking at me. And even if I'm dancing with somebody, because all social dancing is improvisational, there's not like you go out and you're like, okay, we're going to do this routine. So everyone is going to mess up at some point, and I think that opens up a whole lot of opportunities because everyone's way more okay with it.
Yeah, and then it you learn to adapt based off of your mistakes, and in certain situations improvisational things when you fuck up only lead to you potentially doing something even better or unexpected, that like in a good way.
Oh yeah. I mean, the one time you trip and fall into a dip, suddenly it's the coolest thing ever, except as long as you don't hit your head.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
uh, Side note, Alec just texted me saying he wants to be friends with ASAP Rocky, and I don't understand where this came from.
I support it. Just let the kid have his dreams.
Yeah, I'm gonna let him. I just texted him and just said what, and I'm gonna let him explain his case while this is still going on. Um, so
Keep me updated.
yeah, he'll probably text back pretty quickly. So the next question that I have, and I mean, I already know a rough answer to it, but I don't know the specifics of it. Is like how physically intensive is it to how physically intensive is it to get into these different styles that you're into, and then excluding like physical activity and intensity, how easy do you think it is to get into these same things?
Okay. So, it's really easy to get into dancing. It's hard to get into dancing really well.
Okay.
Um So because dancing is at so it's you can do it at such a low, any level, not I don't wanna say low level. You can do it at a beginning level, and you can just do, let's say, a waltz. There's something called a box step. It's the basic step. You go step to the side, step backwards, step to the side, and it's 1, 2, 3. You can do anything at that level, but you're getting into, same with rumba. You're gonna take a side step and a back step and close. Side step, forward step, close. And you can do those so simply, but as soon as you want to get better, there's suddenly this thing called technique and connection and musicality and these stresses that you're putting on the body. So I'll use something called American rhythm. There's this thing called uh, your body action or your twisting action. It's called Cuban motion or Latin motion, depending on which, if you're doing international or American. And you are bending and straightening of a knee while twisting your hips, while wringing your spine, while lifting your chest, while looking up and looking in a direction, while moving your arms. And it's the same box step as just like a 1, 2, quick, quick, slow, quick, quick, slow, but there's so much more going into it. So you can make it as physically intensive as you want or as simple as you want.
Hmm. Okay, fair enough.
Mhm.
That's I mean, yeah, there's plenty of things that exist in the world that it's like it's easy to do the thing, but it's not easy to do the thing good.
Yeah, I mean, there's for social dancing, you don't need to you need to have the basic connection, you need to have the basic following skills, but you don't need to know that all right, when you put your feet together, it's going to be a third position. You're going to lean your hip into the weight, and it's just kind of what you want to make it. Dancing is great because you get out of it what you put into it.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
I will admit, I think initially when Peter gave me this question, because I think it was Peter who asked, when Peter gave me this question, I think both of us were potentially operating under a different style than what you do here. Even though you like gave me all of the details, I guess I could have technically reformatted the question. I think for whatever reason we were operating under the assumption that this was applying to a totally different style of dancing than what you do. So I guess that makes sense. And if we were talking to somebody who does styles that are a lot more my throat's giving out. If we were talking with somebody who, you know, partakes in styles that are a lot more technical, then it would obviously be a much different question. But it sounds like a decent chunk of what goes on here is kind of just personal preference and the flair that you want to put on it. And the flair that you want to put on it will then dictate how physically intensive it is to actually do the thing.
Yeah, I would say that's accurate for anything non-competitive. As soon as you get competitive, you have to account for every technical aspect because you're being judged for like 10 seconds. So if those 10 seconds or like the judges are most likely looking at you for 10 seconds at a time. And if those 10 seconds and you don't know which 10 seconds it is aren't perfect, then you're not going to get score well. So it's the competitive side of things gets very physically intensive because you're out there constantly. You're constantly working every muscle and stabilizer out there. Plus, you have to be, active in your free time to keep your like physique, to keep your flexibility, to keep your mobility.
Yeah.
So,
but at that point, if you're talking about competitiveness, that's already a pretext that comes with any competitive anything that you could kind of expect.
right.
So that makes sense. So I guess the question is still phrased well enough to say, like, if you wanted to get into this and kind of start learning what's going on and what you need to do and how you need to do things, it's like, it's not like the craziest thing in the world. It just depends on how quickly can you learn the basics and how quickly can you learn the fundamentals and then figure out, okay, now how can I make this catered to who I am as a person?
Right. Yeah, that's completely it. That's why I think dancing is such an important skill to have, just because it shows you what you want to do. It's also like, fun to have in your back pocket.
Yeah, and I think in your case as well, it seems very convenient that you at least have a lot of, maybe not a lot, but you have like more people than the average person would have, like friends that don't operate in that scene who still enjoy partaking in the activity that you can like enjoy the time with.
What do you mean? Like
Well,
people who are willing to dance but
like
don't.
I think people who really enjoy dancing in various forms that aren't really done in a way where you are like people like I guess casual dancing is the word that I'm referring to Dakota is what I'm getting at. Like
Social dancing.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it seems like from my perspective, it seems like you have a lot of friends and a lot of people who are close to you who are into that kind of thing on just a casual social level more so than I think other people would probably have. But maybe that's just from my perspective.
I think you might have it slightly backwards just because I think the people that you are around, you can like bring. I think I introduced most of them to dancing, so they're willing to do it. They didn't have any dance experience before that, but I kind of introduced it to them, and now they're okay with it. And so I think that happens for just about any person that you're hanging out with, like, and you're like passionate about something.
Yeah.
You'll probably share it with them, and if you're friends, you're probably more like-minded, so they'll most likely enjoy the things you like.
Yeah, okay. Yes. So okay, yeah, so you're right. I was under the kind of wrong impression cuz I think I had always operated under the assumption that like cuz if I'm thinking about Dakota specifically, I am thinking like based on who I know him to be as a person, I'm not surprised at all that he's into social casual dancing. But a part of me kind of just assumed that it was something that he was just into because of the because of like the environments that he grew up around and like because of okay, how do I explain this? Because I know what Dakota likes, I could reasonably assume that this is something that he has at least semi enjoyed for a little while, but I suppose it seems like the primary force in him being into it is because of you bringing him into it and him being open enough to humor you.
I think that's mostly the open enough to humor me because 9 times out of 10 when I'm like, hey, you should come dancing, the conversation usually ends with me dipping a person, and that's just not something they're used to. So if they're cool with that, they're usually cool with just about anything. So it's definitely the openness.
Fair enough. Okay, cool. Well, that's good to hear. Um, so a couple of these questions that I have kind of apply to both the dancing as it is part of your hobby as well as the coaching aspect of it for however long you may have been doing that. So what are some of your? I'm not going to say some. What are your favorites and least favorite things about the hobby itself, and then about the coaching of it?
Ooh, okay. So I'll start with the hobby. Least favorite thing is something I like to casually refer to as Dawdacity or the dance audacity. Uh, it's just people who think they're hot shit, who won't take any constructive criticism, and I'm like, Brother Bear, I don't care if you've been dancing for 20 years, you're bad at this. Um, and I encounter that a lot in certain social scenes where it's just people who have been around for a long time. Um, it's again like putting into it what you get out of. They put in the time, but if you're only taking group classes, you're not getting some of the technique. And so some people are like come in, they're like, I am the greatest thing that ever existed, and then you dance with them and you're like, yep, okay. And then also the people who think that they're so high and mighty because they're experienced and they're good that they won't humor a beginner.
Oh yeah,
Like,
people who just shit on beginners because
yeah.
that's boo those people. Well,
Yeah, boo those
boo
people.
both of them, but like I especially hate people who think that they are too highfalutin to teach people, or
Oh
just
yeah.
to not people who think they're too highfalutin to just like let beginners make mistakes and be open to the fact that it's going to happen and try and just like foster a healthy learning environment for them.
Yeah, those people suck.
You're like, you're a dick. I hate you.
Yeah. Then there's the other side of the spectrum with that as well, where you're like, they're giving too much criticism, and you're like, dude, I'm just here to have fun. Like, can you not tell me what I'm doing wrong during this dance? Like, if I'm hurting you, let me know, but I'm still learning. Let me learn.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the part that I don't like about the audacity is the part that I don't like.
Yeah.
Not like in terms of like what I do really love on what was your question? It was like,
Well, just what's your favorite like parts or aspects about
oh yeah.
the hobby itself?
Um the thing about the hobby itself not for coaching is kind of seeing how much fun people have, and you get to have fun, you get to try new things. It's a very open environment. I especially love the people in all of these scenes. Each dance scene has completely different type of person, but overall it's just one big family. Honestly, like my ballroom partner is like my big brother, and he's stupid and funny, and I just love being around the studio. The studio owners like my uncle who drinks too much and it's hilarious.
Let's go down this path
he
now.
says some really weird stuff. Like he says I look like I'm going fishing when I walk in my ballroom outfit, and I'm like, I don't know what this means.
What the
but
fuck does that mean?
that's what I said. He just says you look like you're going fishing. Um, but yeah, so the people, in terms of coaching, I don't know. I don't think there's any part that I don't like about coaching. Okay, I take that back. When people don't want or aren't open to learning, like I can't teach you if you don't want to learn because I can show you what it looks like. I can tell you what it looks like, but you just got to be open to it. And a lot of that stems from just like a internalized self-confidence thing. Um, where I just like if someone keeps coming back to a lesson, they want to learn, they just won't tell you. So you kind of bring them out of their shell. And then my absolute favorite thing in the world is seeing someone who was struggling finally understand it, and then they go, "Oh my gosh!" and they're having fun with it. So those are things, some good things.
That makes sense. Those are like two sides of the same coin, or two. Well,
Yeah,
no, well, It's like on
more
one
or
hand,
less.
you have somebody who is trying their absolute hardest to try and understand a concept, and it's like tough, but they're trying, and then suddenly something clicks in their brain, and it just all makes sense.
Mhm.
Um, when it comes to the other end of the spectrum about like people not being willing to learn, I'm curious. Like, do you think that it comes from like? Do you think you see their unwillingness to learn manifest in, say, them being unwilling to practice on their own personal time? Do you think it's them not being receptive to the information they've been given? Is it them just straight up refusing to take in the information you're giving them right then and there at like a training? Or
So usually, if they're at a training, they in some capacity want to learn, but a lot of the reason why they're not getting it is because that they believe that they're bad at it. So if they come in, they're like, "I suck at dancing. I'm not getting this." Then as soon as they don't understand a step, they'll shut down and like just kind of cut you off. And so they believe that they can't learn, so they don't.
yeah, they don't
But
make
as
an effort to
soon
try
as
and fix it.
yeah, and then and at a certain point, that's their own prerogative, and you can only do so much. And some of it comes from a cultural background. This is especially in the Latin dance scene. A lot of people with Latin heritage have a hard time admitting that they don't know certain like parts of their culture. Like I think from the experiences I've had, a lot of my friends who are Latin um grew up around people dancing, and they were grew up around really good dancers, and they just never learned. So it's kind of embarrassing to take that first step when you're supposed to be good at something.
Yeah.
So a lot of them shut down that way. And it's all like I think every shutdown moment is mostly just what they think of themselves, and the goal as an instructor is just kind of bring them out of their shell and let them know, no, you're good at this. Everyone starts somewhere. You can do this.
Yeah, and fostering a judgment-free zone to be like, hey, your parents might be really good at this, your siblings might be really good at this, but you don't have to worry about them judging you if you suck at this. And
Right. We all sucked.
yeah, exactly. So, yeah, no, that's totally fair, and that all makes sense. Um, this is my favorite part of these whole episodes because I think they're funny. Um, once again, well, I this question comes up every single episode, and when I was bringing up the questions with everybody to make sure that I was asking the appropriate questions and that I could, kind of, uh, just kind of get a tab on everything. I was talking with Peter about these, and I brought this question up with him, and he thinks he might have an answer. But to somebody who looks in on what you do in any
Oh
capacity,
no.
in any capacity, what is something that you spend money on that would be considered excessive?
Rhinestones. um
What the what?
Rhinestones. So so let me preface this. It's mostly the whole getting ready for the competitive process. Like dan- dance lessons you're gonna spend money on, and people see that as like a yeah, that's a necessary thing. Um
Yeah,
so ballroom dresses on average cost around $2,800 a dress. And you
$2,800. Okay.
2,800, that's an average. You can get lower, you can get a lot higher. I know people with like $10,000 dresses.
Yeah.
Um and you need at least 2 if you're doing American styles. You need at least 4 if you're doing both American and international, and you need at least 5 if you're doing American, international, and nightclub. Um so I decided screw that, and I made started making my own dresses, but rhinestones are still so expensive that for one dress you can spend like $400 on rhinestones.
Um, okay.
I'd like to preface this as only for competitive ballroom dancing, which is already an excessive and extravagant sport in itself.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's that's the big thing.
Okay. I guess if you have an answer to somebody like from the perspective of non-competitiveness, like we can answer that in a second. The fucked up part is that me and Peter were almost on the same track. We were almost on the same track of being like all of the costume work that you have to do and potentially all the amount that you have to travel, and you come in here with rhinestones.
It's the most expensive part. Like, I think I've had plane tickets cost less than the rhinestones on my dress.
Jesus Christ.
Traveling is a big part of it, though, and hotel stays, because I don't know who runs these competitions, but they're like, yeah, so we're gonna stay at a hotel that's like $400 a night, and I say, I'll be at the Airbnb next door.
Yeah, I'm just chilling, and yeah, and that's totally acceptable. I mean, I think we you and me had this discussion before, completely unrelated to this topic, but like the last time that I was over there in that area visiting you guys and friends, and I was
Mhm.
talking about, I was like, these plane tickets are a goddamn scam. This is an hour and a half flight, and you're making me spend like 400 and some odd dollars on these. Are you kidding me?
Oh yeah, it's
So I can't,
so
I can't,
excessive.
yeah, I can't even imagine if you're, and like, I'm talking about from an international airport. Like, you have all the airlines, and the one you're making me pay all that to travel 600 miles. Fuck off.
Yeah,
But yeah,
honestly.
when you're, yeah, when
Yeah.
you're talking about competition travel and all this other stuff, it's totally reasonable. Um, but so
Yeah, and West Coast competitions are way cheaper. So if someone wants to get into competitive dancing, like the competitive social dances are where it's going to be.
yeah, totally
Um,
reasonable.
those are like, hotel stay and $40 compared to thousands of dollars, and you can wear the pants you have in your closet.
Yeah, exactly. I will wear the pants I have in my closet. I don't
Yes,
actually.
please
I
do.
don't really have like a. I more have a dresser. It doesn't matter. Do you have an answer for this question in regards to like more casual esque stuff?
Yeah, I mean, casual. Like the thing about social dancing is it's so cheap as a hobby in general. I think the most money you'll spend at one time is like a good pair of dance shoes. You want a suede sole and you want something that's comfortable. Depending on the dance, you might want like a tiny bit of a heel, but most of the time it's like a good dance shoe. And then entry to venues is like $10.
Okay, fair enough. Totally
Yeah,
reasonable.
totally reasonable. Lessons might be a little bit more expensive, but
Nothing
nothing
outlandish.
as like outlandish as I spend that much money getting a spray tan
On
for
some
3
fucking
days.
rocks.
Some sparkly rocks. Some sparkly rocks and my hair done in the most helmet-like fashion you could ever imagine.
Nice. That's respectable. I don't,
Oh yeah.
I can see it now. That's great.
I don't know if you've seen ballroom hair. This is kind of a tangent,
Nah.
but I don't know if you've ever seen it. There's so much hairspray that if you're wearing nails, you can tap on it and hear it across a room.
I don't think Discord picked up that sound. Yeah, I'm looking
Oh,
at. I just made like a this the sound of like a door knocker kind of. Yeah, I'm looking at some of these pictures and Jesus Christ,
mm-hmm.
kind of looks like they just like It looks like it's like their hair is like half glue, half hair.
Yeah,
What is this?
I would give more like 80-20 glue hair.
Fair, but okay, fair enough. And then I don't know if you have like a way to quantify this in terms of just raw skill level. Where do you think you're at in terms of like the events that you partake in the most, or I guess the style you partake in the most, or the one that you're most um, that you were doing most recently, or anything like that?
Yeah, so I am still an amateur technically. Um and there are different levels of amateur. So I am a silver level amateur dancer, and there is bronze, silver, open, and then overlapping somewhere in the open range and the low pro level. So it's very difficult to say because you can technically compete at whatever level you want, but I would confidently say I am, in the competitive terms, the mid level, because there's like for ballroom, because
Mhm.
there's so much that goes into it, and I've only been doing it for a year.
Fair enough, but to even be only doing it for a year and still being at like a mid level, or even if you're being generous, like a slightly above mid level, like that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's also very difficult to quantify that just because depending on each competition, like for some competitions, I could go compete as a pro and, get probably third. But if I go compete at like, and those are the kind of the lower level competitions, but the dance community knows what the good competitions are. And on those, I'm probably a silver level.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Um, good thing you mentioned the good competition specifically, because the next question is actually about like competition and event stuff. So, what kinds? There's a chance that if I phrase this stupidly, it's already been answered. But what events or competitions do you go to, and what are some that you condone that people go to?
Um, for West Coast, anything sanctioned by the WSDCA. Uh, and then anything ballroom related is NDCA. Those are just the people who run it. Um, for ballroom, honestly, if it's more expensive, it's probably better. If it's at a nice hotel, if there's a lot of people coming, then it's a good competition. If you see that there's only like 20 couples total there, then you're probably not in a good place. But if there's, 200 people there, you're at a good place.
That makes sense. Yeah, because I suppose it's the concept of like there's a reason there's this many people here, which is that all these people recognize that this is a good place to be because it's vetted and it probably consistently has this number of people showing up and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, it's way easier to tell for you on a personal level because it's not all about winning. It's very much like how to see how you improve. And if you go and you compete against 3 people and you get first, and then you go like you're like, "Okay, I know I'm good question mark, but if you go and compete against 30 people and you win, then you're like, "Okay, I can confidently say I'm good for this level."
Yeah, it's basically you increase your sample size, you get a more accurate like data pool.
Yeah.
And you can get a more evenly spread data pool, and you can more accurately determine how good you actually are by comparison to 30 people.
Right.
So that makes
Yeah.
sense. Okay.
As with any competitive thing.
Yeah, it's to be expected.
Mhm.
Ironically, I feel like there might be a couple of exceptions to that. Obviously, not in this specific scene because I wouldn't know shit about that. But there's other scenes that like I have friends that compete in that like can have like 10 people or less at it, and these are Smash tournaments for the record. But like,
Oh, I love that.
yeah, but it's
Well,
like
that's a niche thing.
yeah, exactly, precisely, yeah. And so that's kind of where I'm getting at, where it's like for certain things, it's like even if you only have 10 people, like there's a chance that like 8 out of these 10 people or 7 out of these 10 people are also still more than likely cream of the crop within their
Right.
respective area and whatnot.
Well, I think that's the same with dancing because it's like you're gonna get more people at a novice level compared to the open level. So you might be competing against 5 people, but those are 5 of the best of the best.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. Um, this is a question in regards to kind of the community or communities in which you operate in, which
Mhm.
is basic. I mean, like, how do you feel about it? Do you think it's good? Do you think it's bad? Do you think it's significantly better or worse than other communities and other areas that you've explored?
Um, it's a very interesting question because each dance style is their own community.
Yeah.
Um, every community is a family. Whether it's a functional family or not is a wildly different story. Uh, it's kind of funny how at least in my experience, how it's ended up working, and I'll use 3 different scenes as examples. Um, the more structured the scene, the more like a traditional family it is. So you got the ballroom community where it's like my partner is my older brother and he treats me like his little sister. Um, and like there's your sisters and your brothers and your dance family, your dance parents. the people who take care of you directly, because it's so structured that it's easy to have that hierarchy.
Yeah.
Then you get to West Coast, where it's like we're all cousins. And we're all really friendly and we love each other, but we don't necessarily have that hierarchy of like, this is a pro, so they're like my older brother, or there's this person knows more than me, so I kind of give them that little bit more respect. It's more of like, we're all here to social dance together. And then you get Fusion, which is heavily dramatic because there is absolutely no hierarchy and there's so much drama, but we're all good. There's a lot of cuddle puddles involved. It's also the dance with the least amount of rules and the most amount that for a beginner could be taken out of context as like very, very close, because you're kind of on top of each other. That sounded bad. So there's a lot more that you can take out of context. It starts a lot more drama, but everyone is good. Everyone is like good-hearted.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, well, so that was a great answer, because it kind of was the exact opposite of what I was expecting, because I didn't know that different styles basically function as their own family. I think when the question was posed, which again, shout out Peter, I think the question was posed with the assumption that communities would refer to local designations in different areas. And I don't know if that applies here.
I don't think so. I think it's very much because dancers travel so much, even for the social people, like you'll travel anywhere and like it's great because no matter where you are, you can kind of find those people. That it's not like Colorado people act differently than Michigan people.
Yeah, because those people are likely to travel around everywhere, and so if any place that has enough of a structure within its dancing scene or community is likely going to be relatively consistent amongst different states. It just depends on what event you're performing in, essentially.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay, cool. Well,
yeah.
Peter, if you listen to this, now you have your answer. And hopefully you're just as fascinated as I was, because I was not expecting that. That's cool.
Yeah. We're all crazy, by the way.
Well, yeah, we're all, we're trying our best out here. Yeah. I guess it's kind of like a side question to that I don't even have this written down. I'm just curious. What is the best competition that you've ever been to, like state-wise? Like, where was it held, and what like makes it stand out to you?
Ooh, probably it was a dance competition called Hotlanta. I think because the people there were super nice and I was like very, very new. And it was just a competition that went really well, and it seemed like the people there were more fun. And this is a tangent that'll make sense. But before we always go out on stage, so you're kind of like behind a curtain before you go out on stage. My partner and I do a little wave, like just kind of like a wave, like the one where you're connected and you
like the crowd surfing wave type deal.
Yeah, the wiggling arms.
Yeah.
And so we always do that. And I think Atlanta is the only place where someone hopped in and joined on with that. And, it's a high stress situation. So that really like took the nerves down. And every other competition people have been giving me, like specifically in Nashville, we did that. And then the girl behind me was like, you should really focus on doing good. And then I proceeded to
suck my dick.
Yeah, I was like, she proceeded last. And I was like, maybe you should have more fun.
Yeah.
Take that out of your ass. Yeah. But yeah, so Atlanta was really cool. The people were really cool. And then also just, it was hilarious. Like it was in downtown Atlanta, and I have traveled with a bunch of people who have never left Colorado except to compete. So they don't know how the South works, and especially like Atlanta, there's like a large homeless population, and a lot of the dancers that we went with were older, so it's just a lot of like ladies shouting at homeless people, and it was just really funny.
Jesus Christ, okay.
I was like, Diane, shut up. Diane, you can't say that. So it was funny after the fact, but in the moment I was like, "Oh God,
This is
we're gonna
dangerous.
lose Diane."
Yes, that's horrible.
Granted, Diane is a black belt, so
Oh, yeah, fair enough.
she could probably take care of herself.
Yeah, totally respectable. Fair enough. Um, Jesus Christ, there's still a ton of questions left here. I didn't think it was going to take this long.
Oh,
I need like a little bit of a preface to this question, basically. So, on one of the episodes that I did, well, how do I explain this? So, communities of talented people typically have people who are considered gatekeepers, people who will tell you if you do this, you are not actually good at this, that, and the other thing, or whatever. The best example was the first episode that I did. I was on with a person who does a lot of digital art, and they had a lot of people coming for them and giving them flack because they were using what's called bases, which is effectively just a template for starting and designing a sketch for like a character. And objectively, there's nothing wrong with it, but there are people who will gatekeep you and tell you you're not a real digital artist if you use bases and whatnot and things of that nature. So the question here is there anything that's at least semi-common within your community as a whole that tends to get a lot of negative PR?
let me think. The only thing, so there's two things that I think of, but these are really like dance is such an undefined thing that I haven't run into it quite yet.
Fair.
The big ones are I guess switch dancing is generally frowned upon in not generally, just some people kind of have a stick up their ass about it in the fusion scene. And switch dancing means mid dance you switch who is leading and who is following.
Okay, yeah.
Um the only other instance I've run into it is, I do both leading and following, and I've had a guy tell me like, "No, you're gonna get bad at following if you start leading," and that's generally the opposite way. But
What the fuck?
I haven't run into a lot of gatekeeping because it's such an undefined thing.
Fair enough, yeah. And it seems like in general, the communities that you exist within are also a lot more willing to accept. I don't like there aren't that many
Beginners.
rules, but people also aren't nearly as big of dicks about these kinds of things. Potentially.
Yeah, there can be people, I guess, in more competitive side, people can say like there's some competitions where people don't like wear the fancy dresses, they just put on a normal skirt and um they're not as high level, and some people can be like, you're not a competitive dancer unless or ballroom dancer unless you throw on the whole shebang. But that's just kind of those people because I think that's a self-confidence thing where they're like, I spent this much money, everyone else has to spend this much money.
Yeah, exactly. That totally makes sense. So
Yeah.
Okay. How much time in any given day or any given week are you actually spending like attempting to get better at whatever dancing style you are partaking in at that time outside of you just doing dumb shit in within the confines of your own home?
Ooh, okay. Um, so this is gonna sound like I have no life once I give you these numbers. I will spend 3 to 4 hours with an actual coach. I'll spend this is per week.
Yeah.
About 3 to 4 hours practicing by myself, 3 to 4 hours with my ballroom partner, and then social dancing. Like I go social dancing a lot. Every Wednesday I'll go up to Denver and dance, which is kind of practicing. I would count it as practicing. So, you know, close to 20 hours a week.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, it sounds like
Yeah.
you're probably dedicating probably like 2 hours in any. I'd say probably between 1 and 2 hours plus in any given day that you plan on practicing. It's not 2 plus hours every single day, but it's like 2 plus hours in every given day that you do happen to be practicing. Probably.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also it fluctuates because, I don't go out and actively practice fusion, but I'll go to the fusion dances and I think that counts as dancing
Yeah, it's close
or
enough.
like as practicing. Like you're trying new things. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then in a similar vein to that question, how much time are you ever spending on coaching people? And does your time increase or decrease, or does it just straight up come and go as certain seasons arrive? Does that influence how frequently you're doing any of the coaching stuff?
I think it honestly just depends on who is looking for coaching.
Oh, okay.
Um, Typically, wedding season is going to be more
Yeah.
just because, they want that. I used to teach salsa and bachata with Devin at it's called Kawadi. It's just like a big restaurant in the Springs.
Yeah.
So that was, coaching a big class, like 300 plus people at some points.
Fuck.
Yeah, that was crazy. It dwindled from there, but that was probably the biggest one we had.
Yeah.
But the most I coach is every summer, my friend Isaac and we run a dance scene for mostly East Coast swing. But this year we're adding a whole bunch of new dances. So 2 times a week I will be coaching, high schoolers and people who are brand new at dancing. And that's, summer is probably the most consistent time.
Okay. Yeah, totally fair.
Mhm.
I kind of expected that when it comes to coaching anything, anything that can be done on a competitive level like that, at least a certain part of it at least is influenced by season. But then obviously in your case, you're also just like, I'm running this shit out of my own, like in my own sector of the scene, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
I would also like to preface that I am not nearly good enough to coach for a competitive level. Um, I don't I encourage people to compete, but if they're competing, I don't want them to come to me. I am mostly like an instructor for social dancers who want the basics, who want the cool stuff, but
And who want to be able to
don't
come out of their shell as
necessarily.
well.
Yeah, it's mostly like a confidence training almost. They like I'm not gonna they can go into the technique and I can teach it to them, but I'm not gonna say this is what you want for a competitive level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's probably already described somewhere, so they know what they're getting themselves into.
Yeah, I would never be like, I am good enough to teach you competitively, otherwise I would be competing as a pro.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, I'm not there yet. You're like, I'm trying, but not there yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
End goal.
Yeah, exactly. So, I guess in relation to the last two questions is how do you ration out this time for dancing in the first place in relation to all of the other shit that you do? Because if I had to guess, I would assume it's that different hobbies you do that aren't something that are like even a job or a career or something adjacent to that. They just they come and go as you become interested in them. So you're not trying to ration out your dancing time with your X, Y, and Z. You're basically like, this is my free time that I'm going to use for dancing 3 months or something. And then the 3 months is up and then something else catches your attention that you were already doing and you get back into it and kind of ration out your time that way. Am I correct on that?
Not quite.
Fair enough.
So a lot of the things that I do on a very consistent basis. So dancing is obviously like probably my top priority, and um it's kind of just down to a heavy schedule and this weird concept that you can do multiple things in a day. Also why I'm an early riser is just so I can get
More
started
stuff
on
to
the
do.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I teach high school, so I get done with my day. My planning period is at 1 o'clock, so I basically get done with my day around 1 or like 7 to 1. So I have plenty of time, and I will go to bed at like midnight, depending on the night, 1 a.m. Just packing as much stuff as I can, but it's like it would be very easy to stalk me because I am a incredibly consistent schedule.
Fair
Um,
enough.
I don't know if that answered your question or not.
No, I mean, no, that's because it makes sense. You ration out your time because you know how long it takes you to do things. When you
Mhm.
do them consistently enough, you know exactly how long it takes to do the thing, how long it takes you to travel, how long it takes you to prep, and even something as simple as like you understand how many hours of sleep you can survive off of, which
Yeah,
seems to be lower than the average people.
yeah, that's I would say probably, you know, 5 or 6 hours, not probably closer to 4 or 5. Um,
Fair enough.
and then you save weekends for spontaneous stuff or fun stuff, and a lot of the dancing things are like anything social. It's kind of optional. So if you find something that's more fun to do, like in the summers, I do a lot of skydiving. So I'll skydive in the morning, come back, shower, go dancing. But if I'm too crapped out, I will come back home and, work on a project in my house. And there's just a lot of free floating things to fill the time, but there's never, dead space.
Yeah, exactly. So you kind of have your schedule set to a bunch of things, but a lot of it is like it's stuff that can easily be replaced with something else. Like
Yeah.
you don't have a hard set line on for this hour I will do this thing, especially because a lot of it isn't like strictly like work related, so you have the ability to fudge that kind of time.
Mhm.
And you can just say,
I
all
think
right,
the
well, I don't
only
want to do that. Let me go do something else.
Right. I think the biggest thing is Monday, Wednesday, Friday are coaching sessions, and that's the only thing I'm like, nah, I will cancel anything just to go to coaching. Like,
Yeah.
you're not budging me from this.
Yeah.
And when I say coaching, it means that I am getting coached.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, that completely makes sense. I'm not surprised, really. Like I should have assumed that somebody who does all the things that you do just you're like I have this shit down to a science. Like so
Come along with me for a week, and I'll burn the candle at both ends, but you'll have a blast.
I don't have the ability to just take a week off of my job to like go figure out what you do in a week. Like that's not I don't
Maybe over the summer you can, like, when you're coming to visit everyone else, I'll take you for a day.
Yeah, I'll let you in on a little bit of a secret, and everybody else. Well, it's not. I'm not. Everybody who would be listening into this already knows what's happening. I'll probably be there in like July or something. This is all because Dakota has just the most fucked up school schedule of all time. And it's not his fault. I love you, Dakota. But because of the weird schedule that he's been on and miscellaneous things that he's been doing, I have not been able to make going down there an ability. It can't happen right now. It can't happen in May. It can't happen in June. It like has to happen in like the middle of July or something.
Well, you know what? Anytime we get to see you is a good time. So
Yeah, no, and the I can't think of the right word to. There's like an expression that I'm thinking of that I can't think of, but the feeling is mutual. That's what I'm thinking.
okay.
So, but
Well, yeah. Anytime you're in town, that was yeah.
yeah,
It's
next time I'm down, I'll be down there on like a Thursday, and I'll be like, all right, what do you do on a Thursday? And you'll be like, all right, follow me. I'll be like, okay. Probably is not gonna work.
come
like that.
along.
Maybe. So okay, I have one more question and then one final one that may not actually have any content to it. So, have
Yeah.
you ever had anybody reach out to you in any way, shape, or form after having some kind of experience, whether it was being coached by you, whether it was coaching you, or whether it was just dancing within the same space and you left an impression on them?
Ooh. Hmm. I think okay, so probably the one that comes to mind first is during COVID, a lot of seniors missed out on their prom.
Oh,
Um
right. Damn.
so the dance scene that my friend Isaac and I ran, we threw a prom, and it was kind of all the dancers that we had there already. And I had a lot of people reach out and just kind of say like, "Hey, you saved my senior year. This was so sweet." And we ended up throwing a prom every year, and it's the one where people people who I don't know that well kind of know me for, and it's the thing that's very special to me
Yeah.
is when um people who I'm not super connected with, because telling someone that like, "Oh, you're my favorite dancer of the night," or like, "Oh, thanks for teaching me how to dance." uh the context, like a weekly thing, is like it's the having someone who you don't know reach out is way above that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially when
Yeah.
it's something because like I'd have to imagine that the amount of times that you get reached out to being like, oh, the coaching that you did was excellent or something, you're like, this is semi-standard, I suppose, but like this is not something like any coach could receive that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
But this is something completely outside of the realm of that of like you saved this graduating class's prom or whatever.
Yeah, the kind of that like weird high school experience that everyone looks forward to. And, I did it for a semi-selfish reason because, I was missing out on my prom too. But it just kind of I have a picture up on my Instagram somewhere and we had like 80 people there and I was like,
Christ.
this was probably one of the coolest experiences I've had.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm gonna after this is all said and done, I'm gonna go through your Instagram and see if I can find that because that sounds cool. Even
It's
as a
under
person who's not a big deal with that.
Oh yeah, it's under the story where if you tap through it's under dance. You got to tap through like a lot of photos, but it's there.
Fair enough. Okay. I'm gonna leave. Yeah, I'm gonna pull up the Instagram thing. I'm gonna pull up the profile. I'll look at that in a minute. Cool. That's pretty phenomenal to hear, honestly. Even as a person who like, I went to both homecoming and prom for junior and senior year, whatever equivalents they were, like kind of obligatorily, and I didn't even like them very much because I don't like a lot of these people in high school, and I don't like dancing, so I don't even know why I did this. I think I just did it because I had to. So I can imagine for people who did care about it, it was like this is a big deal to them.
Oh yeah.
So that's cool.
And normal prom kind of sucked. And so this was a lot more special because it was all people who like wanted to dance and better music,
Yeah.
good food.
Didn't overcrowd the space and whatnot.
Yeah, we were actually, we were at an outdoor public park.
Oh, hell yeah.
Fancy gowns, all, doing flips and tricks wearing prom gowns. It was hilarious.
Yeah, that's sweet. All right, cool. Well, I guess the last thing that I have is just, do you have any additional information that wasn't covered here or that you wanted to expand upon, that you just wanted to tell people, give to people, help people out, anything?
Everyone should learn how to dance at some level because it is, for my guys, it is the thing that girls will probably remember you for, is if you're a good dancer. It makes you stand out. It gives you overall confidence. This is for my ladies as well. The ability to just connect with a person and follow something. It's, just connection on a deeper level with people who you might not meet all the time. Also, when you learn how to do it young, you get better at it. And it's just such a fun thing because if you know one dance style, you could probably dance it to all types of music, no matter what situation you're in. And it makes an awkward moment beautiful. It makes a dull moment fun, and it makes it just brings out something in yourself that you didn't know was there.
All right, that's a nice endorsement. Yeah, to anybody who is in my position of I don't like doing that at all because it's weird. Get over yourself and maybe you can find a good place. Hopefully if you're interested in it, you can find a good outlet, a good group of people or company or whatever that can thoroughly harbor a good learning environment.
Mm-hmm. Also, it's okay to be bad at things.
Yeah, sometimes that's, look, you're not going to be good at everything. Matter of fact, you're not going to be good at a statistical majority of things, and that's fine. Cool. I think that about wraps it up here. I think all of the questions have been thoroughly answered, above and beyond. So I just want to thank you again for coming on here. It was a very eye-opening experience for me, even though I don't like what am I going to do with this information? Not a whole lot, but it's pretty cool, and that's more than acceptable for me. I guess.
Well, hopefully you go learn how to dance.
Oh yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see about that. Listen, man,
we'll see.
There's a bunch of convoluted things that are going on that I simply don't have time to explain. So I think before we close this out, are there any people, any places, anything that you want to like tag or advertise that people should check out? I can link them for you as well.
I think the only link that they have, yeah, there's a few. Best of Ballroom in Colorado Springs. If you want to learn anything from just social dancing to wedding dancing to competitive dancing, they are the best. The Denver Westies, that's something you can tag. Denver Westies at the Mercury Cafe and the Stampede in Denver. They are absolutely amazing and such a good community. And yeah, I'd like to shout out to my coaches, Golden, Nathan Bales, and Jess Mancini. They're great. You can tag them. I'll send you their stuff.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Cool.
They're awesome.
Yeah, shouts out all those people. I have a lot more selfish things I have to plug because I have no skin in this game to tag anybody. except for putting the links in. If you want to find more anything from me, you can find me at DJ Cereal Sauce on fucking everything. If you can't find it the first time, try putting underscores between the words and you might find it. And if you can't find anything, I probably don't exist on that platform. I have another podcast called Nothing Is Anything, which actually is going through a pretty big rebranding right now. So even if you click the links, you might not find a whole lot because we're trying to rebrand everything. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Twitch, Jesus Christ, Instagram. I have a TikTok, although I just post podcast highlights from these podcasts on there. All the links are going to be below in the description. And I guess I'll see what kind of dancing lessons I can find then, just because you told me to.